welcome to the Biddeford Parsonage Museum, historical residence of Lucy Maud Montgomery during 1894-95. Come in, relax, and join us for Storytime with LM Montgomery.
Hi, my name is Emma Palmer, and I'm going to be reading Her Pretty Golden Hair, published in Philadelphia Times on March 26, 1899. It's a fortunate thing that I have pretty hair, said Florrie Wood, as she brushed out the long, glistening strands, for I certainly have nothing else to recommend me personally. She was a commonplace child of the Wood family. Lillian was a beauty, and Josie was clever, and Laura was expected to do some wonderful things in music and wanted to go abroad to study. But no one ever predicted a career for Florrie. She was plain and quiet, and never led her classes. To be sure, she had some merits, even gifts. She was sweet-tempered and a general favorite in a quiet, unobtrusive way. She was mother's girl, and to her fell naturally all the little household duties that a beauty or a musician could hardly be expected to concern herself with. As she said, she had one beauty, her hair. It was magnificent, and as she was only a flesh-and-blood girl in her teens, I'm not going to say that she did not feel a certain little thrill of vanity at the admiration it always excited. It was very thick and long, with a natural ripple and gloss, and was of that perfect reddish-golden hue so rarely found and ever simulated. Florrie was proud of her crown of glory. She gave it the most careful attention, and would never allow a lock of it to be cut. Mr. Wright, the proprietor of the hair goods store on Weymouth Street, always looked at it longingly. Once he said to her, "Miss Florrie, if you ever want to get rid of that wig of yours, let me know, will you? Hair of that color and length would bring almost its weight in gold." Florrie had laughed gaily enough. Sell her hair, indeed, her one compensation for snub-nosed freckles. She would as soon have thought of selling her head. Nevertheless, she promised. "When I do make up my mind to have my hair cut, I'll come to you, Mr. Wright," she answered, very much as if she said, "when I do make up my mind to start for the North Pole." It had been planned for a long time in the Wood household that Mrs. Wood should make a visit to her sister in her old home. The Woods were not rich, and such journeys were few and far between, particularly for Mother. But now it really seemed as if her visit was to be made at last. She expected to be gone for a month. Florrie was to keep house, and was in a flutter of delight over it. But finally Mrs. Wood began to feel doubtful about it, and one afternoon she told Florrie with a little sigh that she had decided not to go. After all, she would wait until next year. "Why, Mother, I thought it was all decided long ago. What is the matter?" "Well, I'm afraid we can't afford it very well. The trip would cost $40, you know, and that seems a great deal of money to spend on a pleasure. Your father has some bills to meet, and Lillian must have a new dress for Mabel Lloyd's wedding. You see, we didn't know when we made our plans that Mabel was going to be married, and Laura really needs a new violin. So many things seem to be needed that I have given up the trip for the present." In spite of herself, Miss Wood sighed again. She was more disappointed than she wished her family to see. "It is too bad," thought Florrie. "Mother really needs a change, for she is looking very tired and thin, and she has been disappointed so often. I wish I knew of some way to send her, but it seemed impossible." Later in the day, Florrie went downtown to run an errand, and she found herself in front of Mr. Wright's store. She suddenly stopped, feeling the shock of a new idea which had darted through her brain in the headlong way that new ideas have. She recalled what Mr. Wright had said about her hair. Was he really in earnest? And if he could she sell her hair? No, she decided as she hurried on. It was preposterous to think of it. But the question would not stay decided. It kept popping up again, just as she thought she had firmly settled it. She walked up on High Street in a brown study, bumping against comers and goers unheedingly, and holding an animated thought dialogue with herself. "I simply could not, that's all. There's no use of thinking it. I could not look a fright. But Mother is not well, and she needs a change and a rest. If only I could make up my mind to do it. But she would not be willing for me to do it if she knew. It is the only beauty that I have. But the hair would grow again, and the hair would be so much, and the money would do Mother so much good. And it's nothing but vanity that's the matter with you, Florrie Wood." Florrie roused herself out of her reflections long enough to attend her errand. When she turned back, opposite to Mr. Wright's, she paused intrusively. The window was full of long locks of hair, brown and black and golden, but there was not one so long or so beautiful as hers. She hesitated a moment, and then walked in boldly. Mr. Wright twinkled at her from behind the counter. "Good afternoon, Miss Florrie. Anything in my line today?" "Mr. Wright," said Florrie, very fast and breathlessly, "were you really in earnest that day when you said you would buy my hair if I ever wanted to sell it?" "Most certainly I was. I've coveted that hair of yours ever since I saw it. And what would you give me for it?" Mr. Wright took the end of the braid in his fingers, held it out admiringly. Poor Florrie winced. It almost seemed as if it were gone already. "Well," said Mr. Wright, "yours is of so fashionable color I will give you $40 for it." Florrie gasped. Just what she needed exactly. Seemed like a storybook. "Mr. Wright, you may have it," she said desperately. "I want just $40 very much, and for pity's sake hurry up and cut it off before I change my mind." And the next minute, Florrie, biting her lips to keep back the sob, was whisked off into Mr. Wright's inner sanctum, to come out a few minutes later with very red eyes, a roll of bills in her hand, and all her golden glory gone. She walked around town for a while to cool off her eyes, as she said, and then she bravely went home, walked into the sitting room, dropped the roll of bills in her mother's lap, and waited developments. "Florrie Wood, what are you doing to yourself? Where's your hair?" gasped Lillian. "My dear child," said Mrs. Woods, but Florrie interrupted her. "Now, Mother, don't scold me. It's all right. Mr. Wright said he would give me $40 for my hair, and that is just what you wanted, so I thought I would accept the offer. You are to go straight off to Aunt Jeannie's and have your visit." Mrs. Wood would have sacrificed her visit 10 times over rather than have Florrie part with her hair, but she was a wise woman in her generation, and since the mischief was irreparably done, there was nothing for her to do but appreciate the generous motive that had prompted the girl's sacrifice. "My dear," she said, "there was no need of your doing this, but I will not scold you. It was very good and unselfish of you, dear. How am I to thank you?" "By going to Aunt Jeannie's and coming home again, well and strong. Don't worry over my hair. It will grow again and be long enough by the time I am a young lady and want to come out. Don't you remember that old Aunt Lucinda used to say that when we went to brains and other girls went to hair and me? So perhaps I may grow brainy now and astonish you all." Mrs. Woods put the money away with a little tremble on her lips. She knew what it had cost Florrie, in spite of her light-hearted banter, for the eyes were not quite cooled off, even yet. "You look like a fright," said Lillian. "Nobody will know you, and all the girls will poke fun at you. How could you do it, child?" Florrie walked to a mirror and exclaimed herself quite critically. "I don't look as bad as I expected," she said, running her fingers through her short locks. "In spite of your assertion, Lil, I think short hair is decidedly becoming of me. Just think, in a little while I shall have a crop of little golden ringlets all over my head that will drive you frantic with envy." I'm not going to say that Florrie did not have more than one little cry in secret over her hair, but they were all forgotten by the time Mrs. Wood came back again, looking years younger, Florrie declared. So well and strong that the girls felt more than repaid. Moreover, by that time, the clipped hair had grown into the predicted crop of little golden ringlets, as fine and as soft, as glistening as silk, and so becoming that Florrie declared gaily that she would never wear her hair in any other way for the rest of her life. "I don't feel half so much like a heroine as I did," she said laughingly to her mother. "If I had made a scarecrow of me, there might have been some merit in giving it up. But when it has resulted in such an improvement, I can't take any credit at all." But Mrs. Wood had a different opinion.